everybody? My name is Tim Daniel, and welcome to a wonderful edition of Late Night Reds Talk Live here on the Riverfront. And folks, this is a special day. It's a special day, not just because we have a very great guest that we very much love and adore to hang out with us, but Carlos and Tim back together again.
Feeling good.
It's been like November.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time. But I'm so excited to have Carlos by my side once again. New place, same faces, and always a guest that we love to have quite a bit. Coming to us straight from Phoenix by way of Orlando, where he got to call the Furman, Virginia upset in round one of the 2023 NCAA tournament. Our good friend, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, John Sadak. How are you, my friend?
I am great. It is awesome to see both of you. By the way, that intro is bumping. That is really tight with the drone shots and the music and the Hall of Fame, and that was really cool. I like that.
Shout out Mr. Kentucky 24, my really good friend Trent Grayson. He does a lot of work for me basketball-wise. So when they contacted me to come to the Riverfront and bring the show there, I was actually down at the ballpark shooting promo work. So I was like, hey, guys, we're going to have a change of plans. So it worked out really well. So talk a little bit about tell us, man. So you got to be in Orlando for a couple of days, which, you know, as we were talking about before we came on air, is my favorite place in the world, basically. And you were there for the NCAA tournament. I was in Charlotte on Friday, right by Greensboro, working on a few things, so I didn't get to go do the game by any means. But how was your time in Orlando?
It was excellent. I love the NCAA tournament. It's one of the greatest single events in sport. And to me, what strikes me the most is just how raw and sincere the emotion is for the coaches, the families, but particularly the players. I mean, it's a dream realized. For many, that's going to be the height of their basketball success, and it's a tremendous height. And they have a national eye and ear on them every step of the way. Having been a team announcer in the past, I did Princeton games for almost 10 years, and I got to be part of their ride to go to the tournament. And so that was my first introduction to it, was as a team announcer and seeing firsthand through the lens of the guys that I covered regularly what it was like for them. It's as first-rate an experience as it can get, and it's so majestic to see how it impacts them as people. The highs, the lows, and the raw competition that happens. They leave it all out there, and it is as poetic and as beautiful a sporting experience as you can have.
This is like the best tournament time like ever. We've got the NCAA tournament where all the pageantry you just mentioned. And then for us diehard baseball fans, I think the World Baseball Classic this year has been amazing. I mean, right now USA is playing. They're up 7-2 in the bottom of the fifth. But there's so many different stories and storylines. It's like you can get up at 7 a.m. and watch Japan play. I know Carlos and I have texted quite a bit about it. So we've been having a lot of fun with the Classic. Have you been enjoying it?
It's been fantastic. The gifs and the memes that have come about since the Trey Turner Grand Slam are sensational. But
yes.
The national pride that everybody has in that is really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. I know Carlos and I have shared quite a few text messages, but so we're gonna keep an eye on this and keep some updates in case anyone has any is not following along. We will keep you posted with how US is going. But like this new tradition we have here at Late Night Reds Talk Live here on the Riverfront, where you can become a Patreon member and join the family. Patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. You can hang out with us, our selection and stuff. We have on Sunday nights on Late Night Reds Trivia, where I, Tim Daniel, find a Reds question. You guys can take all the time on the internet to research before the end of the show, where I will give you the answer. So this week's question is, Ken Griffey Jr. hit his 400th, 500th, and 600th home runs of his career as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. Name the pitchers he hit each of those home runs off of. So, John, you have any guesses?
I do not. To be honest, my brain is kind of mush right now. My sleep has not been great the last few days, changing multiple time zones and sleeping minimally over the course of the NCAA tournament. I would be cheating and looking it up.
That's the point. I can't stop any from looking it up. So it's not like off the head. Carlos was like, Ken Griffey Jr. doesn't know that off the top of his head, nor do I. So
Yeah, somebody knows that. They are a diehard Griffey.
yeah, I am, and I didn't know who it was off the top of my head. So all right. So let's go ahead and get into the week that was with the Reds here, folks. So Monday, they have the 8-0 loss to the Brewers where Brandon Williamson struggles. Tuesday, 5-3 win over Kansas City with a 9th-inning rally. We do see Tyler Stevenson homer in that game. Wednesday's game against the Cubs gets canceled. Friday, they play St. Patrick's Day against the Guardians. Graham Ashcraft looks really good. 4 innings, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts. We get Joey stealing bases. Carlos, is this Double-A again?
He needs to stop it. Somebody put that man station right now. Calm down, Joey.
Saturday, they get a 7-1 win over the A's. Noelvi Marte has a really good game. And then today, lost to the Brewers where they have a 9th-inning comeback. So that was kind of a bummer. But Jonathan India homers. They actually take the lead in the 9th before they give it up in the 9th. So overall, a decent week for the team on the club. So, John, you've obviously been around them. During spring training, your time in Arizona. What are the kind of the vibes you're getting from the ball club throughout this offseason? I mean, this spring training.
I think the vibe of the team is they want to shock the league. I think many welcome the idea of doubters, and they want to play to the best of their ability, and they believe their ability exceeds what most preseason predictions seem to be. I think this is particularly led by the two young guys, by Stevenson and India, going into their respective third years, that early on publicly kind of grabbed the mantle and said, we want to lead more directly. India has been in fantastic shape. I thought he was at the start of spring training even a little more selective, like just kind of seeing more pitches, and then started to blend into what we know a little bit more of him, that he can work a really deep count. But if he sees the right pitch, I mean, he's had a lot of first pitch success when he's going peak Jonathan India. And I think the team kind of follows that. I think that there is that sense of, they have done all the work. And Tyler Stevenson, if it's possible, I think he looks better. Like, he is like a walking specimen of humanity and always has been. And he looks even like bigger and more ripped, but not excessively so. Still very flexible, still with bat control. I would have said it's impossible if somebody asked me that in the offseason, and he looks better.
He does. And I think that's kind of really jumped out. So obviously, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo has kind of been the big story here. Hunter just looked really good his last couple starts in spring. Nick Lodolo really coming around too. I know it's really hard to say in spring training because those guys are obviously just kind of getting comfortable and taking more risks with the pitches they're selecting. Do you kind of see any growth that you've seen from them in these 2 or 3 weeks of spring training ball compared to what you saw all of last season?
Definitely. And with Graham Ashcraft. And I thought that was a big rebound, when you highlighted the last week and the 4 innings he had last time out. He had left with the calf cramp in the start before, when his first 2 innings were outstanding in that start. And so there was an eye on what that next turn would be. They all look sensational. To me, the biggest differences are, I think, the overall command of everything, and the tightness of the breaking ball for Hunter stands out dramatically. I think with Lodolo, it's the changeup that looks like it's gone to another level, because he's always had that back foot breaking ball. He has the finished fastball that he can use up. He can tunnel and use that same fastball down. But the changeup looks more distinct and even more difficult for hitters to handle. And with Graham, his overall command has not only been better, the velo looks like it might be a touch up, like pretty easy. And his breaking ball looks really good. And to be honest with Graham, I mean, the latter, that third pitch, is really what my concern was going into the offseason. And I spoke to him at Reds Fest back in a couple of months ago, and he said at the time he was working on a split change, that he was going to start ramping up to throw, and that was his plan. And then I heard secondhand, maybe a month or so later, that he had abandoned the split change and he was going to the slider but changing his grip. And he thought he found something with the grip of that slider. And my initial reaction when I heard that was a little bit of worry. Like, it seemed like I really would have liked to see a split change working with his stuff. And then I saw his breaking ball so far this spring. It's not a show me pitch. It's a good pitch. That's an excellent compliment. And he was crippling in that Dodger start. I saw him firsthand before I went to Orlando. It looked really, really good.
Yeah, and I know that was kind of something that was really jumping out. Obviously, Christian Encarnacion's strain was the story. We know he got sent down to minor league camp this close to the season, which makes it sound more and more like they expect Joey's going to be ready. But different hitters have really, these young hitters have really kind of really done a lot to really expand themselves and show themselves out. You mentioned India and Stevenson kind of leading the way. Spencer Steers obviously kind of showing just really good patience at the plate. We've seen Ellie De La Cruz flashes in this spring training. We saw a really nice triple hit off Aroldis Chapman early. But I think the name that's really kind of shocked everyone, because they knew about the prospects, they knew about the guys that are up and coming. The name that everyone's kind of talking about the most right now seems to be Will Benson. The center fielder they got from the Guardians really late in the offseason, right before spring training, is fighting to be the starting center fielder. I talked with Doug Gray last week about him, and he kind of felt like, he's kind of earned the right to be the center fielder come opening day. What is your takeaway from Benson, what you've seen from him so far?
Incredibly athletic, covers awesome ground in the outfield, has a bit of a good confidence to him. Like he has a resolute sense of self-belief, very easy and strong power, particularly opposite way. Probably the standout swing for him this spring was the home run against the Mariners in Peoria. That ball traveled on a day and in a ballpark where generally that wind tends to come in from left center. Dave Sims is one of the first big league broadcasters to give me tape feedback, and he's been with the Mariners a long time, and he's been coming out here for spring for a long time. And he said there are not many home runs that go to that field, period, let alone with that kind of authority. That has stood out significantly, is just how athletic he is, how much ground he can cover, the power that is in his bat. And if it can click at the plate, I think he gives you pretty much everything you want. His throwing arm is not great, but in center field, I think the arms of a lot of center fielders are not great. But most of the other categories so far against spring competition, to me, he has checked a lot of boxes. And then you got to see how he'll handle major league pitching in major league games.
Yeah, Brandon here kind of makes a point about he's really interested to see what he can do. He is concerned about strikeouts, but dude does have some upside. And look, he was a first-round draft pick for a reason for the Cleveland organization. There's obviously that joy.
And there's fair concern if you look at his minor league numbers. They're not great, but sometimes it takes a bit for someone to click. And, different comparisons because his issues were overwhelmingly due to injury and availability. But I feel a Tyler Naquin vibe, first rounder coming from the same organization, didn't quite work out in total. And I think Naquin as a Red was a really productive player. He was flawed, but he helped the team a lot in a lot of ways, especially with his power. And I think with his clubhouse presence. And I feel a similar sentiment from Benson, who was probably one of the coolest overlapping fun facts. We're talking about tournaments overlapping and the time of year it is for sport. If he didn't get drafted, he was going to go to Duke. That's where his commitment was. And his plan was to walk onto the basketball team while playing baseball at Duke.
I was wondering why he was not in the spring training 3-point shootout, being a basketball guy and all. I found it shocked he wasn't in that competition.
I am not positive. Yeah, there were a set of I think intentionally inflammatory made up odds on the guys in the contest, and I did not see the entirety of that sheet. I didn't witness the entire first day of the 3-point contest, but I'm there with you. Yeah, I think he's a guy that I would have thought would be. Although I did call Bo Thompson first day. Because I've heard legend of Bo putting up shots, the outstanding video man for the Cincinnati Reds. I thought he was going to win it all, and then he lost to Will Myers in the final. Came up just short. My bracket got busted in the championship.
Yes. So this is actually a good one Pat mentioned. I've been trying to think of comps for him. Jason Hayward's one that makes sense. Tall, really athletic, covers a lot of ground, swings pretty similar. That's a good one. I like that one, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, I'm waiting for Carlos to get back. He's been having technical problems, guys, which is really bumming me out because I made a segment just for him tonight. So hopefully we get him back as soon as possible. I'm going to ask you a little bit about, obviously, with the changes this year in the game, the pitch clock, um, things like that, the bigger bases. What has that been like for you to kind of be around and call games with these new changes? Is that something like, I know it's obviously we've seen some players really having a hard time getting used to it, and there's been some trial by error with it, but how's that been as a broadcaster kind of working games with it?
Well, the bases don't really affect me much. I mean, I think more it's about player safety, and it'll have a small effect on stolen base attempt and success. I think to me, the positive benefit from a selfish personal broadcast standpoint with the bases would be I think we're going to see fewer, in combination with the timing rules for challenges as well. I think we're going to see fewer challenges for that finger came 1/10 of an inch off the bag while the tag was applied, he's out, which to me is totally against the spirit of what replay is supposed to be. I'm all for getting the play right. And yes, it's your job to stay on the bag. But some of these minuscule margins, look, by an eyelash, I think that's ridiculous. And I think that's a waste of time. So if we can cut down on those for the real replays and just let the game be the game, I think that's a good thing. But for the pitch clock, I do think it affects the broadcast a little bit in a good way because I like it. I think it helps the sport. I think it helps the overall viewing experience. But it does change the rhythm, the cadence for how and when you tell some form of story, for how and when you go on some kind of tangent with your partner. Because over 162 games, we're doing 158 or whatever of that, and every single inning, there was bluntly a lot of fill time that's not there now. And when I've texted with my friends that are announcers at other teams, particularly on the radio side, they're noticing they have less time to just let the crowd noise be because play is constantly happening. Pitch, pitch, pitch.
I was wondering about that. I thought that was going to be a really unique dynamic. So Carlos, are we good? We got you clear?
I think so, man. Sorry about that.
Perfect. No, hey, it happens. I'm just glad because I planned this segment strictly for you, because I knew you were here. Because we're going to talk a little bit about Jose Barrero, and if this is Jose Barrero's season, because if it's Jose Barrero's season, this is another tradition we're starting tonight, folks. We can't talk about Jose Barrero without mentioning one thing. It's Soul Glow season. It's Soul Glow.
That's gotta play whenever he's jogging around the bases. Like he can have his walk-up song, all that can happen, awesome. But play that as he's rounding the bases, please.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, anytime this is a late night Reds rule, now that we're part of the Riverfront, anytime we talk about Jose Barrero, Soul Glow will play from Coming to America. That is a Carlos Guevara tweet that I was like, I'm stealing that. I'm just taking it. So now that we have John here, who's obviously seeing Barrero quite a bit this season, I know you've been able to see many more spring training games than I have, Carlos, because YouTube TV thought it'd be a good idea to get rid of the MLB network and then raise my prices of my monthly subscription. Look, the extremely small sample size. I know it's spring training. We always talk about the stats of spring training, and everyone goes up and down with them. He's only had 32 at bats, but the slash line is looking good. 281, 343, 812, 4 extra base hits, a stolen base, and a lot of this is the shift rules, sure, but 474 batting average with balls in play. The strikeouts are still there. We've seen him strike out a little bit more than we want to, obviously, but you're seeing the improvement. You're seeing the confidence. You're seeing the comfortability. Carlos, how are you feeling about Jose Barrero?
I'm feeling pretty confident. I haven't got to see a whole lot of ABs out of those 32. I've probably seen 5 or 6, but going from the good following that people that I follow on Twitter that are there or that rely on the data and stuff, they're saying that his ABs are looking really.
I think he froze again.
So hopefully that works out and keeps going forward.
Yeah. So John, I know obviously you're like we talked about the guys you've seen kind of grow there. What's really kind of been your kind of impression of Barrero so far in the spring?
It's been positive. He's hit breaking balls, and he's driven the ball hard the opposite way. I would couch that with the at bats that I've seen. Some of those breaking balls he's hit, and some of those hard hits the opposite way were probably bad pitches. They were hangers. They were middle of the plate. So I can't say with full definition that when he's facing a quality regular big league staff that we're going to see the same stuff. But what I've seen against the opportunities that he's had so far, it's looked very, very good. And what caught my eye today, I mean, I was in Orlando the last 5 days, so I'll be at David's availability tomorrow morning, is that today Jose Barrero was taking fly balls in center field again. And he had said that David approached him and talked to him about getting some reps in center. And so he did that exceptionally well last year. I think anything you can to add diversification, to me, that's an encouraging sign, because I think that means that they are seeing something in the bat. And I think that means he's got a really legitimate shot to be a contributor to this team.
I'm excited for what he can be. I feel like with this conversation of all these guys they've gotten that are shortstops and all these trades, all these moves, it seems like it's kind of like he's almost forgotten about. And look, I get it. Matt McLain, Ellie De La Cruz, everyone's excited about them. I'm not going to say I'm not by any means. But this has been, this is what you kind of want to see. Those numbers are what you want more of him. I mean, obviously if he's hitting those numbers all year, he's a National League All-Star. I'm not going that far by any stretch of the matter. But not only what he's doing there at the plate, like John said, his selection, his, controlling of the bat of the plate is a lot more impressive to see. But also the athleticism was always there. Some of the plays he's making at shortstop this spring have been really, really impressive in the little bit of games I've been able to see. So, it feels like it's his chance, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And I think he believes, like, look, I don't think he's anti-Ellie De La Cruz by any means, but I think he really believes, like, this guy's going to be on our big league team, but I'm going to have this position if I can have it every day. And I guess now you said that he's taking center field fly ball, so maybe he's got a little bit more of a dynamic threading as well. So,
yeah, man, if they could add him,
I would agree though with this.
Yeah, if they could add him to this lineup as an everyday pencil in, not have to worry about it. I mean, that's such a huge benefit going into next season. I mean, even this season, it's borderline. If they get a big season out of him, average to plus average hitter, we might be talking, having a little bit of conversation come the All-Star break.
I agree.
What were you saying, John? I'm sorry.
I think his defense really has stood out, particularly the range moving to his right, going deeper in the hole. The athleticism that he has shown has been exceptional. He made trying to remember the game now, fell right on plumb onto his backside against the Royals, was it? And made the fire all the way over to first. The arm strength is strong. The accuracy is good. And I think he has enough natural power that just making contact is way more than half the battle. And I think if he can make reasonable contact, particularly at home, you will see power production will come from him. I'm not talking 50 home runs, but I'm saying he can be a 20-something home run guy if he were an everyday player and drive in a lot of runs.
I like that. I'm all for that. I think, yeah, this is kind of, and I think this is the thing too. So C. Trent put his mailbag out on Friday, and he came up, and one of the things he mentioned was like, he's well aware what this season means to his career. He's well aware of what he has to do to stay here. They said, like, look, he has a very positive attitude. He really believes like he's having a great time out there. He's keeping his head up, but he knows the pressure's on him, and so I think that this, pressure makes diamonds, right?
For sure. Yeah, he knows those guys are right there at the doorstep. So it's time to go. It's time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to see what goes from here. Speaking on the Athletics' Tim Britton did a piece on Friday predicting the starts of the Major League and their future extensions. And obviously Indy and Stevenson were mentioned in there. So he kind of talked about kind of what their market is, what their statistics compared to guys who signed deals. Tyler Stevenson's was really interesting to me. They said that you could see him at 5 years to 42 million or 6 years 52. And the person that he was compared to as far as his contract, for his big post arbitration deal. Wow, take a drink, Tim. Was Alan Craig of the Cardinals, kind of signed a similar deal. And then India, you kind of compared to a few other guys, but 6 years, 45 million, I think is kind of interesting. I feel like 533 might still be a bargain for India. Depending on what the season is, obviously I'm still really high on him, but for you guys, what are kind of your thoughts here? Because I know the Reds aren't necessarily a team that's doing what Atlanta's doing, where Atlanta's signing Michael Harris right as he gets or he gets called up to a full-time major league deal to skip the arbitration process. But do you like these numbers for these guys necessarily?
It's hard to know or to make these assumptions because we don't know what they're going to do financially. We don't know what the plan is. So, yeah, those numbers look great. Stating the obvious, India is probably at a team-friendly contract right now. But if he continues the way that he has in the spring, it's not going to be a team-friendly one very much longer. So, if they want to save some bucks, they better hurry up. And Stevenson, he seems like the more surefire, like lock type of deal.
It's hard for me to say, not knowing the full baseline. I actually wonder also how the entire economics of the sport are going to look in the coming years, depending upon what happens with television money, which is a giant part of the overall payroll picture and revenue. That could have a massive impact on everybody in the game, depending upon what the fallout is. At the same time, I think to have the system be able to truly feed itself and to long-term build, you have to selectively do this. You have to get in front with some of your young players and sign them to longer deals. And I think Atlanta is an excellent example. And there's risk. There is risk involved in that. With this team, I think there are so many young players at overlapping positions that are not here yet and probably won't be here maybe at some point during the year. But the idea of them being regular full season guys next year would be the earliest year you'd start to see that wave arrive, most likely. I think you got to wait and see how they perform in the big leagues and know who's got what. And I do think you have to get in front of it. Now, if that's specifically India and Stevenson, I don't know. But I think you need to have a full inventory of who do you have, who do you like, how do those windows match up, especially in terms of prime years. And, I think the pitching right now is probably a touch in front of the position players. That's probably my biggest concern about the overall stability and extending thereov, is because I think a lot of these young pitchers are going to be up this year. I think we'll see Levi Stout starting at some point this year. I think we'll see Brandon Williamson in the big league rotation at some point this year. It might be in a fill-in start. It might be an audition of some sort. It might be on a regular basis because it was earned based upon minor league performance. It could be out of the gate, especially with the uncertainty with Luke Weaver and the forearm issue that's come up over the last week plus. But the younger guys are going to be a mix of high A, double A, and some in triple A, and there's no guarantee that they'll click at their, if it's a new level or a newer level, respectively, for each of them. It's everybody goes at their own pace. But I think you have to sign multiple core players, particularly position players, to longer deals and get in front of it. Because if you wait until free agency, one of two things happens. Either they perform to or above expectation, in which case they are extremely expensive because they've earned it, because they've played so exceptionally well. Or if they are more affordable by the time they reach free agency, there is some form of significant flaw. They've either had injury or they've had some excessive poor performance. And then it's a tougher question about, do you want to extend a player like that? I think this is part of the economics of a lot of teams. I mean, the Yankees did it. The Yankees did it with Luis Severino. So if teams like that are doing it, to me, it's a business necessary move for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. So we've had some, Branch is kind of saying he doesn't think they should sign either of them. We've got Brandon here saying they should take the risk of Stevenson. The rest give them another year to see what happens. And we've talked about this all year last year when we had the debate that went way too long, Carlos, of, should Stevenson play first base? You look at those numbers. I think that settles that debate of should Stevenson play first base or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So real quick, kind of go through this before we finish this out. Jake Fraley today took a little one off the leg. They said it's hopefully just a stinger. Panic levels, though, pretty high. He's had a really good spring training. Let's say something does happen where there's no Jake Fraley for a little while. Stuart Fairchild, obviously, I know, came and took the at-bat today. Did pretty well for coming in down with 2 strikes already, but, it is what it is. What should the game plan be there then? Because at this point, you're looking at potentially no Fraley, no Senzel. That kind of makes things a little worrisome in the outfield.
Yeah, for sure. It makes it tight out there. Hopefully, I haven't seen anything that's too negative about it. Hopefully, it's just being precautious side of him. But because, man, he's swinging the bat really well. He's ended the year swinging it really well.
Yeah.
There's not a position they could afford to be thin at to start the year off.
The last I had read was that it missed the knee and that they were very optimistic that it was not a major deal. Yeah, that's what I read secondhand earlier today. I just got into town like a couple of hours ago. I'll be at the complex tomorrow, and I'm sure that's going to be a topic that's brought up in the morning. But I forgive me, I forget who had either tweeted it or where I saw that message. But what I had read is that it was not as big a concern as it looked to possibly be live. That he missed the knee and there wasn't any. They did not believe there was any significant damage.
Good. That makes me
that dude's
we were talking about
got power.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's been awesome.
Since we were talking about India and Fraley, you saw Wick Terrell's tweet earlier said they should start a brewery and call it India Frail Ale.
Oh,
that was great.
That should be a
Sell
podcast.
it at the ballpark. That'd be a good one. India Frail Ale.
Why is that not a podcast? They could talk about orchids
and IFA.
Yeah, I like it. We did get this good question. We got this question. This is a really good one from our pal Joseph. Thoughts on Derek Law and Alex Young to start the year with the Reds? Perhaps them over a combo of Strickland and Sousa in the bullpen. I think that they deserve to be in the conversation. They both had really good spring trainings. Derek Law, threw an inning today with 2 strikeouts. Alex Young yesterday threw an inning. Both are pitching the ball really well. Both have, were hitting their spots. I don't know if the Reds will necessarily go that route as far as over Strickland and Sousa. But I am totally open if those guys are going to be part of the ball club. I would not be against seeing them on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about those two, but I mean, the younger the better right now. Hunter Strickland, he's good to have in the bullpen for being a veteran. He pitched okay. I know people give him a hard time on social media, but I mean, you can run him out there almost every day. So his position is pretty vital, but it's kind of hard to go against youth right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think
Derek was just.
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I think Derek Law was a really solid contributor for the Reds last year. I liked his overall stuff. I think Derek Johnson saw even more potential in what he was able to bring to this relief corps. And this entire offseason, I think a lot of us were envisioning TJ Antone again being a big part of late game situations for the Reds. And there's a legitimate area of concern there because that would have been a major weapon had he been out of the gate, ready and healthy, good to go. Coming off a second major arm injury and surgery. But I think I'm encouraged by what I've seen from Derek, and I think he could help this team in a really, really big way.
Yeah, I think he's looked really, really good this spring training. I've been really excited about him. All right, guys. Well,
Sims has me a little worried.
I was gonna say, I know that he hasn't really been getting consistent outs.
Yeah, it's he's had so much time off, and he never really got to make the full adjustment from being allowed to use certain substances and not. And it takes a while. It really does. And, then he got injured. Now he's coming back, and now he's having to pitch in Arizona where it's very hard to grip the baseball. And he hasn't had positive outings as on a whole. So I don't know. Maybe we'll hopefully these next couple of outings, when they start going back to back, he can get back in the groove of things.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to be a big thing for them down the stretch. But don't worry, Carlos, because in Cincinnati, probably we're 16 days away now. It'll be probably 30 on opening day. Yeah. Woke up yesterday to snow flurries. That was amazing at the end of March. Loved it. So he'll be fine. He'll be okay there. All right. So we did get someone. Shout out Jackson Hall to answer our trivia question for what 3 homers did Griffey hit his 400th, 500th, and 600th homer with the Reds off of. Your answer is 400th, Rolando Araujo of the Colorado Rockies. Does anyone even remember him? Is the question. I do not. Matt Morris of the Cardinals, the 500th, obviously on the infamous Father's Day home run, and the 600th in the old Miami Stadium with Mark Hendrickson of the Marlins. So interesting to note, we obviously know 500th was on Father's Day. 400th was on Griffey Sr.'s birthday. So milestone home runs in the Griffey Jr. Senior connection must be a thing. I don't know. But congratulations, Jackson, on getting the trivia question right. Just make sure you send your address in a DM to myself or to the Riverfront, and we'll get the prize out to you. That was either you knew off the top of your head or you're the quickest researcher in the game. So either way, because that was like 2 minutes after I asked it that popped in. Shut it down. John,
can we hire him?
Yeah, no kidding. We need a statistician. We need one bad. Yeah, Seth Smith from the A's. Pat, if I can get Seth Smith, I'm all in. John, I got to ask you this because we have you here. Obviously, it's always a blast to have you. You're finally getting a real opening day in Cincinnati this year. You're finally getting there's no COVID, half the stadium. There's no lockout for a week where they got to go to Atlanta. You get to be at Great American Ballpark on opening day finally. What's it going to be like for you, man? This is your real one, your first real one.
I'm really excited for it. We're actually going to have our daughter go to the parade. She's going to spend time downtown with my wife. For me, I wind up anchoring the desk at the stadium. So I get there around 7:30 in the morning or so. We pre-record some stuff. We rehearse a bunch of things. We check in with everybody. And then we do multiple hits and interviews during the course of the day. But I am just so ready for the buzz and the electricity of what opening day means, of opportunity, of the ceremony, of the holiday, really, that it is in our great city. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that I'm able, whenever I'm liberated from the desk, and I love working the desk, don't get me wrong, but I'm hoping to be able to sneak away a little bit before the game actually starts and at least walk around, a couple of blocks of the ballpark and kind of soak it up, get a feel for it, see some people, and really get to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, man. We got
to get a mic on you. Walk into those tailgates, see what the folks are talking about.
Beers.
Just make sure you got a drop button.
I'm trying to figure out what time I'll be downtown. With a newborn, it's a little bit harder to hey, honey, I'm going to be gone all day. I don't think she gets too excited for it as much. So,
yeah. I had a quick question for John before we get out of here. So we had, we got to see Joey join you guys last year, Steve a little bit. So who's another player maybe that we wouldn't normally think, or, who would you want from the team right now to call a game with? Who would be an interesting chat?
I think Hunter Green is a super smart dude, very observant, and opinionated. I think he would be excellent. I think his awareness of history, I think is the way that he Sky Rosa every day. Yes. I think, and I think he has a deep love, appreciation, and respect for the game. I think he would be really cool to watch a game with him.
That's a good call. Yeah. I like watching his interviews, listening to him. He's ahead of the pace for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's more mature than I am.
Well, me too. Definitely. Although for at least I know for me, that's a very low bar.
Perfect. Well, John, man, I can't thank you enough for flying across country and still making time to hang out with me and Carlos for about 45 minutes tonight. I really appreciate everything you've done for us over the years, whether it be shouting us out on the broadcast or hanging out with us at Reds Fest. Like, I always love getting a chance to interact with you. You sent me a really great message when you found out I was having a baby, and that was super kind of you. You were way too kind, and I really appreciate it. My wife is like, "You're really cool with the Reds TV guy," and I said, "Yeah," and she thinks I'm cool now, so I appreciate that even more. Um,
We get our street cred up when we drop John's name.
yeah, we know Sadak, and people are like, "Oh yeah." So thank you again, man. This is so cool. I know you probably just want to get a little shut eye before you gotta get to the complex tomorrow, but I just want to make sure you know, like, I really appreciate you taking some time for us.
No worries. You're welcome. It's great to be with you. Are you both going to be opening day? Carlos, are you coming out?
I will be.
I'm not going to be able to make it, but I'll be there later this summer for sure.
All right.
Perfect.
Please let me know when you're in town, Carlos. I would love to connect with
Okay.
you. I'd love to have both you guys up the booth sometime. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for what you do covering the team. I mean, good, bad, and different. Yeah, it's you guys show your passion. You show you're paying attention. You care about this team. It's incredibly fun to go to the ballpark every day, and it's more fun when people care and interact with it. And you guys do an awesome job. Thank you.
Well, thanks, man. We definitely appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up here in this week's edition of Late Night Reds on the Riverfront. I got to say, 2 weeks into our new relationship here, we've been having a lot of fun. The Slack chat has been so much fun. So if you're not in the Patreon with us, go do it and join the Slack chat and interact with us. We have a lot of fun talking with you guys there. I know they do a lot of Patreon hangouts with the group. So come join the family at Riverfront Cincy. Follow us on all the socials, including the YouTube, where if you're watching us here, take a second to go ahead and give us that nice solid subscription. Thanks again, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next Sunday, the last one before opening day, folks. So we will see you all then. Take care, everybody.